What's going on, boys? NealGuides here. Welcome back to another video. Now in today's video we're going to go over the best controller settings, including the glitch, the assisted jockeying glitch. We're going to go through all of that. I'm going to reiterate it again. I'm going to go through everything, including ball relative. What does ball relative do? Teammate contain, movement session, etc. So I'm going to go through all those individually as well. But before I get on this video, I just want to say this video is sponsored by OneFootball, your one-stop shop for all your football information you do want to know. If you click on the QR code down below, just below this webcam, I suppose you can see over here, you can actually get a free download to the OneFootball app, your one-stop shop for all football information. Coming close to transfer news, they got your back with all the transfer news. So link is down below in the description for the OneFootball app. When you click on or you can actually scan the QR code down below. So many thanks to OneFootball app for, of course, sponsoring this video. But going back into the controller settings, so first things first, the glitch, the one that everyone talks about, what the pro player's been talking about, that's been around since day one. Now, people always get this confused, but let me just say this in the most simplest term, okay? Choose whatever settings you want to choose, and then just press on. This is just a visual glitch. On means nothing. All you have to do is choose whatever. So if you want your contextual dribbling on, and you want this on assisted, whatever. Once you've chosen your settings, just put this on. That's it. It's done. It's done. Don't do anything else. That's all you gotta do. Now, if you're a NealGuides viewer, realistically, this is going to be patched. Maybe not this year, but at the very least this year or the start of next year. So if you use this now, there's going to be a time when a patch comes out, and I'm going to say in this video, I'm going to say, you know what? I told you, don't use assisted jockeying, even on manual, because let everyone use assisted. But if you use manual now, you'll actually be ahead of the curve, because soon as this gets nerfed, every Tom, Dick, and Harry and Jessica, they're going to be in a shock when they start using manual jockeying in defense. So if I was you, keep it on manual. The thing that does make sense is the contextual agile dribbling. I leave this one off. It should not be in a game. It's a glitch. I don't know why it's in the game. I cannot understand why they introduced CAD, which is contextual dribbling movement, in left stick, because purely left stick dribbling should not be dictated by agile dribbling, in my opinion. So the animation should be off. Auto clearances and auto flare plus auto shots. To be honest, most of these, the average player won't notice the difference. Leave them on. There's no reason to turn them off. Jockeying, as I said, you're meant to leave this on manual, but there's a glitch right now. If you put it on assisted and you put this on, then it will save the settings and it will use assisted in game. But don't do that, because you're going to get screwed, of course, when the game does change it or when EA does change it. So this is what I would say. Put this on off, because there's no way they'll change this. If they do, I'll probably riot for the game. Not riot, but I'll probably stop playing the game, if that makes sense. But on more stuff, this is kind of irrelevant. But leave this on off, because you don't want left stick animations to be confused with the R1. Don't forget to use contextual agile dribbling. You just hold the R1 button. There's no need for you to hold no need for the game to, because with this on, the game randomly puts on contextual agile dribbling. Sometimes you don't want agile dribbling, so leave this on off. Use the R1 to control agile dribbling. Leave the rest on if you want to, just in the future, if you want to prepare for the future, because you want to be smart. If you're like an investor in real life and you want to predict the future, then leave it like this, because it's going to be a good chance EA is going to patch this and you're going to be in trouble. Same with tactical defending, you're going to have to use it anyway online. Through pass distance, now you can use semi, but most players, 99% of people watching this, should use assisted. There's no reason to be using semi, there's no reason to be using manual either. Assisted passes, you can still do those crazy meta through balls. I don't do it. You might see me not do it. It's because I don't play that way. I'm not all for this abusive mechanics, non-skill mechanics. That's why I don't use it. But yes, it is very effective. You can leave on assisted through ball assistance, and you can still create those through balls. You can use semi as well. The good thing with semi is the amount of power you put. You can put more power on the pass, but you can just use the L1, R1, and triangle button almost to achieve the same thing as lob pass, but it ends up becoming a driven lob pass anyway. FIFA trainer should be on hidden. Time shooting, okay. I think it needs to be on. I know most of you guys don't use it. If you spam the shoot button inside the box, don't use it. But the truth is, when you time a shot, it exponentially increases your chance of scoring. One-on-ones this game is the worst. You know how many games I lose on FIFA, and I've seen the pro scene. I've seen pro competitive matches. Someone like CR7 miss with a green time shot. Even then, finishing this year is a shambles. I'll be honest. Most of my games that I lose, I have 6 1v1s, and I miss them. I don't even consider them losses in my head. But until that gets patched, leave this one on, because if you have a green time shot, you have a higher chance of converting that opportunity as opposed to an untimed shot. So if you're now to green timer shots, definitely leave this one on. I have the theory where you do it a bit later, that way you either hit it grey or green, so there's no lock on effect. It becomes a normal shot or it becomes a green shot. So I would definitely say leave this on. This isn't a very important one. People always say they leave this off because it distracts them, but you need to leave this on. If you leave this on, that then means the player that is not, so you've normally the red cursor above your head, but normally like a gold cursor. If you press the L1 button when in a defensive phase and you don't have the ball, your player will switch to the player that's got a gold mark above their head. As soon as you press the L1 button, it will switch to the second defender icon straight away. And same way, if you hold the R1 button for teammate contain, that player will apply teammate contain. So this next switch player icon is very important because that's the player that you'll switch to if you press the L1 or the LB button. And that's also the player that will be applying teammate contain. So although it can confuse you, it's very much in your best interest to leave the next player switch icon. That's what I very much suggest. Pass block assistance, there's no reason to have this on off. Auto switching, now I'll be honest, on air balls and loose balls, just leave it on that. Manual, people say gives you more control. Look, when the ball is 6 feet or higher in the air, the game switches for you automatically, so there's no need to have it on manual. But absolutely not, you do not want it automatic. This will cost you because you could be running back with your CDM and the game will randomly switch to your center back. You don't want that, so that's why you want to put on air balls and loose balls. That way you can have control over it, and the only time the game will switch for you if the ball is 6 feet or higher in the air. Let me just quickly drink this slush puppy as I am in winter. Don't even ask why. But yes, on air balls and loose balls. Auto switch moves. Now, I would say, for everyone that's new to FIFA, I would say put it on low. If you've been playing this game for over a year, you should be using low. And if you're a top tier player or you're trying to become a top tier player, you should be using none. The problem with this is only if the game automatically switches you, but sometimes if it's like a through ball in behind the ball 6 feet or higher, you could be running back. But if the ball comes in behind, the game switches to that player for you, it will automatically go towards the ball. Sometimes you want to run to where the ball is going to be, not to where the ball is. So having this on none gives you that complete manual control. So that's why I say for newer players, if you just play this game, you got it for Christmas, leave it on high. Playing this for over a year, 5 years, on low. If you really want to edge your skill gap up or you're an elite player, you have to have this on none. Clearance, directional, or classic is up to you. Most players would prefer the classic way, but directional is useful, but of course depends on wherever you input your left analog stick, that's where the ball will go, so do bear that in mind. Player lock, leave it on, unless you by mistake press the L3 and button in together. There is no reason why you should just have this on off, but if you do have that issue, leave this on off, because that way you don't force yourself into player lock, but realistically this should be on. All icon switching is when you press the R3 button, it then tells you if you flick the right analog stick up, you switch to your left back, down to your right back. It gives you more precise control. The problem with this is that in a real life example, it's too slow. Maybe if the ball is in a halfway line, you have time to recover, but realistically, you can't use that much. Leave it on. I mean, there's no harm unless you have the issue, as I said, with player lock, where you press the button by mistake. Otherwise, just leave this one on. There's no harm done. Now we go over to player switching now. I'm going to tell you something that is not realized yet, and I've been banging on about it since FIFA 20. Ball relative is more consistent than player relative, okay? And I know what you're going to say to me, oh, but my favorite player, pro player Tex, he doesn't use ball relative. Now, it's true. Everyone that's used to ball relative should realistically keep it on ball relative. But ball relative, I use it because the problem is that with player relative, the red marker is always changed. The player, for example, I try to draw this out. If the player is here, if you want to switch from this player to that player, to this player, to that player, to that player, let me show you this here. From that player to that player, you'll move your left analog stick once to the top right and then to the top left. It's quite confusing. If you want to go from here to this player, you can just go straight backwards with a left analog stick. If you switch this player by mistake, you can press the left analog stick again. So you're basically going into the same direction every single time we choose the correct player if the game makes a mistake. With player relative, it depends on where the red. So if your player is standing here, it depends on a red marker. If this red marker say you want to pass your left back, you got to flick the right analog stick to your left back. Whereas with ball relative, takes into account where the ball is. Now your eyes, contrary to belief, they're always fixated on the ball. So if you want to flick the player onto the right hand side of the ball, you just flick it to the right hand side. Simple. Once you change to it, you will understand the benefits of it. But I understand everyone's had their reservations. But again, this will become the meta in 2 years' time, and everyone will start laughing now, but they won't be laughing in a couple of years. But it is true. On the top tier level, on pro level gameplay, player relative is better. I've experienced this myself when I'm pressing manually. Ball relative hasn't really got the best of benefits, but unless you're a pro player, in my opinion, I would use ball relative. Unless you've been playing this game for a year or plus, then stick on player relative because that's what you're used to. But if you're struggling with player switching, switch to ball relative. Everyone I've told has thanked me because it's changed the way they played. Again, it's up to you, but I would strongly recommend ball relative. Unless you're a top tier and you know you're rank 119 or 20 and no playing, you're still watching this video, or you're a pro player, you should absolutely use player relative. Player rotation, when you press the R3 button, it's the same as icon switching, so don't worry about that too much. As you can see, it says when defending, then move the next player. Switch to so when defending, move the next player. Switch indicates the player you want to switch to. It's basically the same thing, except for the player marker is moving as you want to. So you, for example, you will switch to, you'll flick it to the right analog stick to your left back. I say that's your center back. That's your right back. You'll flick the right analog stick to your right back, and then when you're confirmed, you can press the L1 button to confirm it. But realistically, no one's got time for that. It's either player relative or ball relative. You can always use icon switching if you want to assist that. This is a supplement to this. This is kind of like, imagine you have like an automatic car. You have automatic or manual, and then you have icon. It's like that clutch pedal. So whatever you're on, it supplements it. I leave this on, and it's on ball relative. Ground pass assisted, shot assisted, no need to change this. Cross, you can use on semi. If you like to cross the ball a lot, the benefit of semi is the game still assists where you want the ball to be. But if you apply a bit of power, it goes short post. Middle power, it goes, of course, to the middle area. And if you do a lot of power, it goes to the far post. So semi just basically allows you to dictate how much power is behind the ball. So if you do cross the ball in, the game still aims it for you roughly, but you can decide if you want it near post, middle of the goal, or far post. Lob pass, manual again if you're only a top tier player. Rest on assisted. Analog sprint, now this is important. Analog sprint is like a gas pedal in your car. So if you're driving a car and you press the accelerator button, your R2 is the accelerator. Now if you have this on, if you're defending and you're holding the run and jock, or you're running and you're attacking and you're running with that player and you hold the R2 button halfway down, that means you're only going to be running at 50% of the speed. So I say leave this on off, because you'll be running 100% the speed every single time. Why would you want this on? Now that's if you're using I would say my forte and my I don't use skill moves, but my lesser dribbling I personally think is a good level, a very good level. Even I don't use analog sprint. So unless you know how to use it, don't use it, because it takes a long time to learn. Unless your left stick dribbling is at a very top tier level, and you will know this. You know if you're a top tier elite player, and you know you're like the last year you're an elite 1 player, not this year, because elite means nothing this year. Elite division is like division 4 this year. But if you're elite division last year, elite 1, then maybe we're trying an analog sprint. But apart from that, leave it off. Even most of the pro players have this one off. Only a handful of pro players, I think #Harry, from my understanding and text, the only players that have it on. Pass receiver lock. Now this is important, okay? If you make a pass, we're gonna have two situations, A and B. If you make a pass, let's say you're aiming forward, okay? You make a pass with A, that's it on early, okay? So we're going to put this on early. Excuse my handwriting. I used to have the most terrible handwriting in school. Thank God, if it wasn't for being able to type my university exams, I would have been screwed. I don't even think I can even read my own handwriting. But anyway, early. So if you press the pass button, which is X, and you select a player, like you're facing forward, and you press that pass button, that's it. It's locked in. You can't do anything. If the guy comes and he runs to cut the passing lane, you can't cancel it. The only way you can cancel it is use super cancel with L1 R2, L1 R2 and LB. Sorry, L1 R1 L2 R2 or LB RB RT L2. But on late, this is what you want to have it on. The benefit of late is, let's say for example you make the pass, and let's say I don't know, let's say Kimpembe, because seems to be everyone's irritation, right? Kimpembe comes and he decides to cut the passing lane. You can then switch to another player as long as the ball has not left your player's foot, basically. So early just means that if you aim this way and you make a pass, that's it. You cannot change it. If it's on late, if you're aiming forward and you make a pass and you're powering up and Kimpembe decides to cut the pass and lane out and you're worried he's not going to reach your player, then move your left analog stick to the right hand side and you can select another player and you can pass the ball to him. As long as the ball has not touched your foot, you can aim this. So you can aim, for example, to the top right, and then you can change to the very last second to the top left if you want to. And that is why it's worth leaving it on late. And that is basically the controller settings, the main controller settings. Now, I use old school PES. Like most of you guys are watching this. I know most of you are 35, 40. Some of you guys remember ISS Pro Evolution 2. In my opinion, the best football simulator. Basic football, only fake shot, no skill moves. That's why I base my gameplay off. None of this nonsense AI assistance, okay? That's the ISS Pro Evolution controls. Now, most of you guys use Classic. Now, you can use whatever you want. I use the ISS controls because I'm used to it, and I prefer like the fake shot. I like to have my thumb on, for example, my thumb on this, and I can do a fake shot like that. Very, very easy. And if I want to, for example, use press button, my press button, my teammate contain button is square. Now, if you're watching this and you're thinking, I don't want to use Neal's controls, but I want to use a better version of the controls, turn the teammate contain button from R1 to X. Why? When do you ever use X? You never use contain. Maybe like a Division 9 or Division 10 player should be using contain, but you'll be using the run and jockey, the run button and the jockey. You're not going to be using the contain button ever, are you? You want manual control. So put the teammate contain button to X, and that way you can apply teammate contain without pressing the R1 button. It actually makes it easier, then you can very easily switch between them. My teammate contain button is square. For old school PES players, you will know what I mean. I prefer this because my left analog stick, my tackle button is not circle, it's X, so it's closer to the right analog stick, so I can switch, and also I can teammate contain very quickly to the right analog stick as well. So in my opinion, for pure efficiency, having the tackle button and teammate contain button is very effective. In contrast, in attacking, it's the exact same thing. If you're attacking, you also want, so if I go, for example, like here in attack, when you want to press the shoot button, you might use your right analog, your thumbs on your right analog stick by neutrally by default. Moving it to the square button as opposed to the circle to shoot is more efficient. So instead of moving it from here to here, here to here, it's easy to time your shots. Now, this is very much next level, like talking about like very pro level stuff. That's why a lot of pros still use ISS controls. But I understand that the new pros nowadays, like, you know, like 16, 17 year olds, they only play FIFA since what, FIFA 13, 14, so they only use the new controls. But those are the old controls. But apart from that, everything else, I use the R1 button as my sprint. Now this is important. If your R1 button is sprint, you cannot use analog sprint, because analog sprint is dependent on the trigger. Like, you know, that's 5%, 10%, 20%, 30%. If you don't have that trigger anymore, you just have a button, it's either going to be 0 or 100. 0, 100. So, if you want to use analog sprint, you need to make sure your run button is on the R2 button, where it's like a gas pedal. The R1 button is like a gear change. It's like 0 or 100. Either you change gear or you don't. 0 or 100, binary. But this has 10%, 20%, 27.5%. So if you want to use analog sprint, make sure your sprint button is on the R2 button. But that is the updated meta controls. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. And I said to you, look, listen guys, look, we all know it's a glitch. I'm not going to sit here and say to you that it's not a glitch. These are my controls. The exact ones I have. You should be using, in my opinion, manual. Now, if you really want to, you can leave this on assisted. But when EA patches it, don't come crying to me. Excuse me, don't come crying to me. That is the video on player controls. I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget your one football app, your one-stop shop for football information. Thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy, of course. And I'll catch you next time for tomorrow. So don't forget, I stream on YouTube now around about 12 PM UK time. Suddenly hiccups, but around about 12 PM UK time. And I'll catch you guys there, of course. Thanks for watching, boys. Take it easy, of course. I'll catch you next time. Peace out.